Welcome, I'm Lizzie Brooks, and this is Yoga for Self-Love and Support. So maybe this is Valentine's Day or around there that you're watching this and you want to give yourself some self-love and be your own Valentine, or maybe it's any time of any day and any year, and you just need that, and we all do. So thank you so much for joining me. Come and join me on your mat. So I want to invite you to start standing today. So we usually start closer to the ground, and at this point I want you to actually feel your alignment. We will go down to the ground, but just for a moment, feel yourself steady and tall, feet separated the distance apart that just feels right to you. Hands placed over your heart center, palms facing down, one over the other. Closing the eyes and finding your breath. So this is a moment to come into you, into, of course, the physical alignment, but also the alignment on emotional and mental levels. Connecting with your breathing. Slowing down just a little bit more. Get into the shoulders, the heart, and the spine here. So as you inhale, reach your arms out. You can open your eyes. Lift your sternum a bit. As you exhale, round. I'm going to show you from the side. Round in, hug. Create that cat pose with your spine. Bend the knees. Inhale, open, expanse, reach through the fingertips. Exhale, cross the other arm on top and round in. So a few more rounds, and play with where your arms are. So maybe they come up and out in a wide V. Exhale, rounding one on top of the other. Inhale, maybe it's a low, wide V. Inhale, exhale, round. So you get the idea. You get to choose depending on how that feels in the heart and in the shoulders, in the back. And exhale, rounded one more time. Hold the rounding here. Draw your core musculature back. Feel that strength, really active at those deep core lines. And then slower than the last times, slowly roll open. Reach down and out to the sides like you have wings here. Lift the sternum, root through the feet. Take a deep inhale. And exhale, float the arms down. Coming up to the top of your mat. Place your hands back over that heart center, finding that central space, and set an intention for what you need during this practice. Maybe the word is love or self-care, nourishment, nurturing, whatever it is, find that and let that flow with you today. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, fold it down. You might bend the knees here. That might be really nice on the back. Inhale, rise halfway up. Exhale, little bitty fold. Fingertips or hands come down. Find your way onto an all-fours position. And I always recommend patting the knees, especially if the kneecaps are just a little tender, with a blanket or a towel, and you can pause the video and grab that if you need. We'll come to all fours and start to barrel roll our spine. So drop the belly down, take it over to the right. Round the spine in that same cat pose like you did standing. Take the spine and the ribs over to the left, and then drop them down again. So right, up, left, down. Continue with that, keep breathing. And allow yourself to feel how this translates to the movement within the joints of the shoulders and the hips. And let's reverse that rotation to the left, up, right, and down. Continuing there. Maybe one direction's easier than the other. Be really gentle with yourself, because that's true with most everyone, that there's a direction or a side that's easier. Totally normal. We're not symmetrical beings at all. And then come into a central point where you feel your organs lifting towards your spine for support of the spine, but you're not rounded. And then we'll just move. Shoulders come forward over the wrists. Toes can be tucked or not. Hips draw back. Up and back. I like to use my inhale for the forward motion and my exhale for the backward, but really it's whatever feels right to you. This is all about caring for you, so you don't do what anyone else says, you do what you say, okay? And then if you want a little bit more, you can lift the knees on this, hovering, shoulders over wrists, hips reaching towards heels, shoulders over wrists, the core musculature supporting the whole time. Think about it as the core of an apple rather than just the surface front of your body being active. And one more time, forward and back. If your knees are lifted lower, let's all come into a gentle child's pose. Knees together or separated, arms can be forward or even back, forehead can be down. Maybe you're in a modified position where you have your forearms down. And without any overthinking, just start to move however it feels best to you, in your hips, in your spine. Maybe you need to check in with the neck. Ooh, I definitely did. And I don't know if my mic picked that up, but there was a lot of crackles. And then come up to an all fours position and lovingly place your hands down. It's almost like, imagine that there's fresh poured concrete and you're placing your hands kind of like, I was here, I am here. Root down, especially through the fingertips, first finger and thumb ball joints. Tuck your toes and slowly enter into a downward facing dog. So think about this as giving a lot of sweetness to the back body while rooting through the palms. I always take time to pedal out through my legs here, opening gently and getting into the hamstrings, especially if you've been doing a lot of sitting, or even if you're really active, you might have tight hamstrings. And then reach the heels. Think about reaching them straight back rather than pressing down. Reach them back a little bit. Take a full inhalation. And exhale, slower than slow, molasses slow, lower to the knees. We're gonna get stronger in these transitions. Why waste them, right? And when the knees come down, rising up to a high kneeling position. We're gonna take what we did at the beginning of opening our hearts, the front door of the heart, the back door of the heart, okay? So reach down and back, lift up through the sternum. Exhale, round the spine, drape the tail, drape the head. You're gonna feel work through the quads and the core. Inhale, opening the chest, lift up through the sternum. Exhale, other arm on top. You're hovering your hips over your heels and rounding. Inhale, maybe go wide into that high up V. Exhale, round. So we should be feeling that we're getting spaciousness, but also that we're doing a lot of work through those legs and the core. Round in. Also the glutes. Inhale, reach up. Who could forget? And exhale, lower the arms down. Shake out the shoulders. Step your right foot forward onto your mat. If you like to use blocks and you want to place them on either side, feel free. Place the fingertips down, and without really getting too technical, we're just gonna take the torso and the hips a little forward, and then back of the heel down, hips back, straighten the leg a little more. Inhale, forward, lift the heart. Exhale, shift back, open those right hamstrings. Back and forth, really sweet into these deep, very large joints of the hips, and giving them a lot of love. And very simply, we'll rise forward and maybe stay down, or maybe rise up to that front knee, front thigh, and breathe here, giving some space to the front of the left hip. Only feel that, or only lift the arms if you feel like that adds some sort of safety, brilliance, strength to the posture. If when you lift the arms it doesn't add that, keep your hands on the front leg. Breathing here. Make yourself bigger in space. Take up that space. Inhale. Exhale, hands come down. Move the hips back first a little bit and then bring the front foot back. This is where you get to choose. We're taking care of ourselves, right? Self-love, self-care, child's pose or downward facing dog. Now, if you have that downward facing dog pose and you want to add a vinyasa, and vinyasa is part of your practice, feel free. You might want to move the blanket somewhere else or out of the way. Plank pose, chaturanga or all the way to the floor, cobra or upward facing dog, and exhale, downward dog. If you're newer to those vinyasas, maybe skip them for now and watch along. And then I have a lot of videos on how to do a vinyasa. You can look up those in my how-to section, in my skills section. Lower the knees slowly down. Rise up into that high kneeling position. Bring your left foot forward this time. Hands to the blocks or fingertips down. Roll your shoulder blades back. Root the floor as you lift the heart a bit. And exhale, shift back. Spread those front set of toes. Inhale, open. Exhale, shifting it back. So we want to nourish the joints just as much as we want to nourish the muscles, ligaments, tendons, all of it. So we'll leave no stone unturned with this self-love. And really just turn on that idea in your intention that this is for you, for your healing, for your growth. All right. Sole of the foot down, hands to that front thigh, maybe, if that feels okay. Decide to stay here or add some other element, maybe a lift in the arms. So we're really finding, okay, what feels right? And then taking up space there, breathing. Root the floor with what's touching. Inhale, exhale, take the hands down. Shift the hips back. Take the left knee back. And then same as before, child's pose, downward dog, or moving through vinyasa. So if your vinyasa is fast in some places and slow in other places, take a look at that. Sometimes we move slowly to plank and then fast through chaturanga and fast through a back bend and slow to a downward dog. See if we can level those out a little bit, make them a little more even, and find the breath through that. Inhale deeply. Take a big sigh out. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Move your blanket or your towel out of the way. Widen your stance and do a swish side to side. So back into that loving movement for the hamstrings, bowing to all that is positive and loving within yourself. And then bring your hands to your waist, roll the shoulder blades onto your back, bend your knees and create a bear pose. So as you bend your knees, draw the torso aligned with the floor, so roughly horizontal with the floor, sternum forward, hips back. Breathing here. You can stay with this hand position or interlace your fingers behind you, opening the chest and the shoulders, or maybe just reaching the arms straight back. You can even hold a strap. Most of my weight was in the front of my feet, so I'm gonna add some weight to my heels here so I get more into my glutes. Little lift and lower. So part of loving ourselves is giving ourselves the recognition that we have a ton of strength and then actually cultivating more strength. Lift and lower, 3, 2, stay with it, 1, and then come on up. If you had that bind in the hands, let that go. Wide stance, not so wide that you feel like, whoa, where are my feet? But wider than your hips. Bring your hands to your waist and draw a circle. Really luxurious, getting into those hips again, and then the other direction. Turning your left set of toes out and coming into warrior 2 legs. So you're bending your left knee, you're rooting the entire right foot down, and you're roughly heel to arch alignment. It's rough. If it feels okay in your low back and your sacrum and your hips, that's good. Let the arms drop down. Okay, so we're gonna lift the arms from the vibrance of our heart. So from here, let the raise of your heart's kind contents allow the arms to lift like they're lifting to the surface of water, and then reach through, add a little bit more energy and gaze over the front fingertips here. If you're mostly in the ball joints of that front foot, anchor your heel. You'll start to feel more work in that inner thigh. And then stay with this, or backhand to the waist or down the back leg. Turn the front palm up. Straight line or arcing back for your peaceful warrior. Breathing here. If it feels better in your neck to look forward or down, do that instead. Breathing. Release some of the criticism, let go of the critique. It doesn't do you or anyone else any good. Come back into your warrior 2. Straighten the front leg. Turn your toes forward, reach up. Inhale, exhale, fold down. You might half fold, you might have your hands on a chair or blocks, fingertips, or any amount into that fold. So, the depth that you can fold doesn't matter. What matters is, are you giving some spaciousness to the back body? Great, stay there and breathe. Maybe add a little swish or sway side to side like you did prior, just calming the nervous system down, breathing. Bring your hands to your waist, or like you did prior, interlace your fingers, maybe other finger on top, shoulder blades on the back. Inhale. I like to bend my knees on the transition up. That helps me a little bit more. If it does for you, do that, and shake it out. Warrior two on the other side. So go ahead and turn your right set of toes out, bend into that knee. If that knee tends to roll in, it might be that there's some tightness in the hip. So just see if you can find a little bit more opening by just rooting through the big toe ball joint, pinky toe, and heel. Arms soften. The kindness and vibrance of the heart, allowing the arms to rise up. And then put some energy through the fingertips, gaze over the front fingertips, and maybe stay right here. Maybe add that peaceful warrior backhand to the waist or down the leg. It might be a straight line, or it might be a bit of an arc back. What I see a lot of times is people really falling into this, and it doesn't feel good in their back or their sacrum. And I say, well, why are you doing it? And they're like, I thought I was supposed to go that deep. If it doesn't feel good, no, no. Back to warrior two. We've all made that mistake. Straighten up, turn the toes forward, reach up, and bow down. Swish and sway a little side to side. We're gonna change it up by adding external rotation in both hips. So heel toe your feet a little closer in, and see if you can look left and right and make sure that your knees are roughly over the ankles or behind them, but you're not in a deep squat like this, okay? So the heels are not behind the knees. And then rising up into your goddess squat, and deciding what you want to do here. Some of us are going to just focus on the legs and bring our hands to the heart. Some of us are going to reach the arms up and maybe make cactus, whatever feels good. Again, choices. And then I'm gonna ask that you play with a little tiny side to side shift, getting into the hips slightly differently than we might be used to. And then pause in the center and slower than you wanna go. Let's get stronger in those transitions. Come all the way up. Turn the toes forward, and then like ribbons, just slowly floating through the air, let the arms come down. Roll your shoulders back and down a few times. And then now place your hands over your heart center again. This time the feet are wide. Root down into the earth. Drink up in through the heart center. So almost feel like you're drinking up and in and providing some grounded energy to the heart center. And I know some of this sounds really crazy sometimes. I'm very science-brained, but if you really allow yourself to feel this, it does shift you in a much more positive chemical state that provides healing for the system. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart center. Inhale deeply and shake it off. Okay, so we're gonna do something that I have taught a little bit, but mostly in my live Zoom classes, which are every other Friday. If you're interested, leave me a comment. So we're going to shake, okay? So the science shows that so just go ahead and start, get really loose. When we shake, when we move like this, it actually sends messaging to the nervous system to kind of calm down, to release. We get that feeling like, whoa, okay, this heavier stuff was on me, this gunk was on me, and it was weighing me down, and I'm just going to shake that off. So however you want to shake, this is great for the lymphatic system that can only move around, doesn't have a pump, can only move around from bouncing and shaking like this. Shake it out. If you want to add some hops, add some hops. Woo. If you like movement like this, try some of my HIIT and yoga fusions. That's high intensity interval training. And then shake, shake, shake more. Shake it off, shake, 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 shake. And pause, hands over your heart. Obviously, that was cardiovascular as well. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to your heart. So we're gonna go over to the other side of your mat and that other short side where you haven't been before. Inhale, reach up. Exhale through your fold, baby bent knees. Ardha Uttanasana, rise halfway up. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold. Step it back, and here's where you decide, are you taking a vinyasa or not? There's no decision that's better for everyone, but there might be a better decision for you. Pedal out when you get to your downward facing dog. Walk your left foot in just a little bit to the midline, raise your right leg. Stack your right hip on top of your left hip if that feels okay, and bend your top knee. Breathing here, soften your neck. So take these opportunities to release through the neck. If you want to add a circle here or a pressing of the leg away, maybe bend and straighten, feel free. We're back and opening that front side body in front of the hip. And then hug in for a hanging plank. Draw that right knee up and in, even lift your ankle towards its sitting bone. Nice deep core work. And then seal yourself down into a lunge. This time the back knee is lifted. Widen your stance. Wake it up. So plug your femur heads into the pelvis and rise all the way up, reach up. Breathe there. And just like you did before when your back knee was down, we're going to find that heart element and then take up space, something in the arms that feels broadening. So like we have wings. And then if you want to add the interlacing again, you can add the interlacing. Breathing here. Yes, this is a balancing posture, so use your gaze wisely. Maybe it's down on the floor a few feet away or across the room. If it's up, that'll be a little tougher. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Inhale, reach the arms up if they're not already. Exhale, put both hands to the inside of your front foot's arch, breathing into those hips. And we're gonna take a twist here. So, leaving the left arm down and reaching the right arm up. What tends to happen with this is we make it more of a turn by letting your hips rotate around. So it's more of like a turn. You're turning your shoulders and your hips with you. If you can, plug your left femur head into the pelvis actively, keep it there, and twist more axially along the spine if that feels okay. Hand could be on the waist. Inhale and exhale. Take that top arm down. Slowly step back to plank or knees down plank, vinyasa or no vinyasa. So when we're talking about this self-love and healing, moving our breath, moving our blood, moving our thinking, moving our synovial fluid, moving our lymphatic fluid, this is all part of it. We're getting ourselves out of stagnation and into the recognition of our strength, our determination, and then just that clarity of moving through, processing. Deep breath in, sigh that out. Right foot walks in a little bit over to the left. Left leg reaches. Stack your left hip on top of your right, maybe bend that knee. Again, you could add circling here, pressing straight and then bending. What feels good in that hip or to that psoas, a deep low belly. Very careful in the transition to draw the pelvis more parallel to the floor and then hug the left knee up and in, lifting even the left heel for that rounded hanging plank. Left foot comes down, right foot a little bit over to the right, steady. Now hug the femur heads into the pelvis to ready yourself to rise up. Where do the arms want to go? Maybe the arms want to stay in some movement, okay? So that's something else too, that maybe instead of a hold, you're doing some movement instead of just staying in that steady hold. Breathing there. Arms reach up if they're not already. Exhale, taking the hands down to the inside of that front foot. Instead of dropping down, plug into the pelvis, active even in the low belly. Right hand down, and instead of turning and dropping that right hip, we'll keep that back hip a little more lifted and make this slightly more axial in the twist, so we're working a little bit more in between the shoulder blades and through the spine. Inhale is here. Exhale, left hand comes down, framing the foot. Step yourself back into a full plank or a knees down plank, child's pose, or through the vinyasa of your choosing. I'm gonna come to a child's pose if you want to join me, and just focus on the breath. So a lot of times when we're asking students to do something like a vinyasa and it feels weird and quirky and clanky and it's not quite right, if that causes a negative feeling within you, skip the vinyasas until you have someone work with you and you kind of find a vinyasa that suits you, so that you're not continuing to come back to every time I do this movement cycle, I feel less than, okay? So you should have someone work with you in a private lesson. I can do that, or some other teacher you respect, so that you just don't feel like, oh gosh, I don't feel quite right with this. Okay. And there's tons of ways to modify. Go ahead and come into a seated position on your sitting bones, feet forward, soles of your feet down. So we started with that movement of the spine. We're gonna mimic that, but this time hips are down, feet are down, knees are roughly hips distance apart. Shoulders roll back, heart lifts. So crack off the shell of your heart, expand the positive contents, and then exhale round and expand the back door of the heart with the positive contents there. Inhale, it's like when you walk into the room, it's bringing in that love. And then even when you walk away, even what's shining back from behind you, you're leaving that loving path. And that's not always the case. Inhale, open, and exhale back. You don't have to be perfect in sending love at all times, but it's nice to know it's there to access. One more time. I lied the first time. This is the last. Inhale up, and bring the legs forward, and shake those out. Okay. So earlier today, we did a pose on the knees. You might want to grab your blanket for your padding of your knees. And we're just going to offer one more sort of growth pose, meaning we prepped for this a whole lot in our hips and our heart and our spines. And now we're going to bring that into a culmination of the next pose. And that will have all sorts of levels too. So I like to use my blanket for this. That comes down. You've been here before, kneeling there. Right foot comes forward. Okay, so we're in that low kneeling. Fingertips come down. Now you can move your back knee closer or further back and see how that feeds into your hip and your lumbar. So find that perfect spot where you go, okay, I'm getting a nice stretch, but I'm not burdening any part of my joints. Okay. Then once you have that, top of the foot can be down. I like to have my toes tucked because my kneecap tends to move a lot, and that helps the patella, the kneecap, to stabilize. So you can stay right here and breathe, of course. You can go similarly to where we were before with the back knee lifted and take both hands, fingertips or palms, to the inside of that right foot. Okay. So similar shape from before, but last time our back knee was lifted. Okay. Now, this might be a great place to stay and open the hips. If you want a little bit more, you can come down onto the forearms or something like a block onto the forearms. Big time into the hips. So we need a lot of reminders of self-love when we're this deep in the hips. So slow your breathing. Take up some space. If you guys are wanting a twist, another twist, similar to what we did this one earlier. Okay, back knee was lifted. You can come up to your palms and then reach. So my left leg is back, so my right arm is going to go back, opposite arm to opposite knee. And I might bend my back foot and reach back for the top of the ankle or the foot or the toes. This is another one where I might use a strap or like a tie of a bathrobe and breathe here. And see, already I'm hiking up this shoulder. I'm gonna wanna roll that shoulder back. If I was actually a good yoga teacher, I'd be doing that. And breathing here. If you don't want the twist, come into the hips at whatever level you want. Now, slow and steady breathing. Last inhale and exhale. And slowly unwind. Coming in and out is just as important as the pose. So move your back knee a little closer in, shift your hips a little further back, walk your hands back, and when you feel steady, bring the legs together. Now, I would recommend taking a legs together child's pose here. If that doesn't feel good to you, then something where you're drawn more to the midline, and you can even roll a blanket behind your knees if sitting back is too much compression, or even just coming to all fours and drawing to midline. We were just in a big asymmetry. Now we want to come back a little closer. Breathing here. finding our midline. And then rising up to kneeling, and we'll go ahead and take the other side. That left foot's gonna come forward. Finding ourselves, opening the hips, fingertips down, scoot that back knee back any amount till you feel, again, spaciousness within reason, not overdoing. Breathing here. You might want to take both hands to the inside of that front foot and continue to work here. Possibly coming down to the forearms, or again, block under the forearms. And if you don't have a block, you can use encyclopedias or whatever else. Some of you are like, encyclopedias, so I'm gonna use the internet? I'm talking about old-timey encyclopedias. All right, so you can stay with that or go for the twist. If you're taking the twist, it's your right hand down, your left arm back, bending your right knee, and finding the foot with your hand or your strap, breathing here. And of course, I didn't show this on the first time, but this can also be done with your forearm down parallel to the front of your mat if you're looking for more of a stretch in that back set of quads, okay? Breathing, and if that front hip allows. Slow down the pace of your thinking. I know it's hard when you're in these big hip openers. Slow down. Let the body know you're safe. And if you're not safe, if your position is too deep, back off, do less. I'm a recovering type A. I'm learning all the time, do less. Inhale and exhale, slowly unwind. Remember, you want to take it sort of movement by movement to draw everything a little closer to the midline, and then send the leg back. Hug inner thighs together, child's pose, or your variation of child's pose that feels best to you. Breathing here. So we'll take a variation of rabbit pose, which is so much self-love for the overthinking mind, okay? So we have muscles, we have things that, you know, when someone rubs your head and you're just like a dog and you're like, oh my gosh, that feels so good. This is when someone's not around to do that for us. We get to do it for ourselves because we need to care about ourselves. So fingertips come down. If you haven't done this before, take a look first and then join me. I like to put my knees down about hips distance. Toes, I like to tuck. Again, tops of the feet can be down. Forehead comes down, but then you roll by lifting your hips. You roll to the more of the top of your head, and my elbows are not down. I see this all the time. Fingertips are down, elbows are lifted, and I'm going to pretend that I have a halo on my head, because we're all angels, and I'm going to trace that halo. Now, if I feel like I'm not getting to what I need to, I might move my head a little closer to my knees, and that's going to allow me to roll a little further back and open the back of the neck. Now, maybe I just want to go forward and back, where I'm not drawing a circle, if that feels better on my head and my neck. And you can put as much or as little weight in your head as you want by how much weight you're putting into your hands. And you can even put a blanket down for this. Rolling that around. Whoo, iron out those kinks. Feel just that erasing of the overthinking. All right. And it does wonders for your hairdo. So, you know, to kill two birds with one stone. Not that I would ever kill a bird. Okay, here we go. Coming into a seated position. I would ask that you find a bolster or a blanket or some height underneath the sitting bones to allow yourself a little bit of an altar to sit up onto, just kind of a little shelf where your hips are higher than your knees, or at least the same height as your knees, that you're not knees really high. And then cross your legs in whatever direction feels good and breathe here. And if this doesn't feel good, you can sit in a chair. I mean, there's whatever feels right, that's what you're gonna choose. Always, always listen in. Coming into our breathing and getting out of surface thinking. So surface thinking is more so that self-criticism of this doesn't look good, or I'm not enough, versus this other person, or the jealousy, that kind of stuff. Surface thinking. So we're gonna go under that. And the more that we practice going underneath that, the more we can drop into that over and over in our daily lives, where things become less bothersome because we know in the long run, they don't matter. So I always like to use the metaphor of like when you see a duck and they're in the water, they come up from the water and the beads of the water just roll off of their feathers. We're just gonna allow beads of critique, criticism, less than thinking, limiting thoughts. We're gonna let that all bead up and roll off. And then as we started, when we came to standing, find your alignment here in seated, and then give breath to that. Know that this moment that you're taking for yourself matters, that we're training the body and the brain and the heart to find us, focus on us, but not in that negative way where we're like, oh gosh, this and that, that's not right. But in that way of, I am worthy of this time, of this care, of this breath. And then in this moment, just come up with one thing, one word that you have to offer. Think of what it is that you offer others. And we'll come into our mudra breathing. So bring your hands, palms facing up on the legs. As you inhale, slowly expand the fingers away from the thumb, so opening the hands wide. Exhale, fingertips and thumb come to join. Inhale, slow opening. Don't stress the hands. Exhale, slow closing in. And again, they don't have to all the way touch. It's just broadening and softening. Inhale, slowly opening. Exhale, slowly releasing. I find this is such a great way for me to calm down when I'm getting a little bit hyped up. And one more time, inhale, slowly blooming the hands, gently open. And exhale, drawing them slowly back in. And then inhale, just come to a soft opening and bring the palms once again, like we did a few times, over your heart center. This time, bow the head in, so you're elongating the back of the neck. Drop the elbows, soften the shoulders, and take this inward gaze. So the eyes are closed, but you're looking more internally to the internal landscape. That is you, capable, strong, able to go with the flow. And maybe those things aren't things that come supernaturally every minute of every day, but things that we can cultivate because they exist there. We know they're there. We might need to wake them up a little bit sometimes, but they're there. Now, earlier we came into a word of what we could offer, and now I want you to come into a word that you are going to receive. So what is it that you need? Do you need love? Do you need care? Need kindness? Whatever it is, find that word and pour it in. Pour it into yourself. Become a sponge for that word. Expand with that word. Know that you deserve it. And then please, very gently, staying with the eyes closed. You don't have to look at anything. I'm just going to ask you to come down onto your mat. Keep your blanket near you, just to roll under your knees. When we're laying down eventually, pretty soon, we're going to hug the knees in and just give ourselves a big hug. Knees draw in, wrap your arms around, wherever you can reach, and rock side to side. Let the head sway maybe a little side to side, very lackadaisical, hugging in. Soles of the feet come down to the floor, and then extend the legs onto the ground. Reach your arms back behind you, take a full body stretch, and wiggle and open in any way that feels good. get into the nitty-gritty, make some new pathways. Now take a really full stretch, inhale, and sigh it out and release the stretch completely. And from here, if it feels best for your low back, to take that blanket or whatever you have and roll it under the knees for final relaxation pose, you can do that. If you'd rather come to seated breathing, then feel free, or seated meditation, feel free. Legs can go up the wall for Viparita Karani, if that feels more relaxing. And give yourself time to heal. And can we heal everything in one moment? That would be beautiful if we could. And maybe some people, find this great healing that happens immediately. But for the most part, most of humanity, it's going to take us time. So give yourself permission to take baby steps in the direction of your healing. Because over time, those baby steps add up. They add up. So I hope that you'll continue to go with those steps in the direction of your healing, and know that there's someone out here who may or may not even know you or ever have met you, but I support you. I really, really support you. Thank you so much for being here, for choosing this little channel over the big guys, and for just giving yourself some self-love and self-care that I know that you truly deserve. If you got any value from this, please let me know in the comments, subscribe, hit the like button, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Namaste.